guys, welcome to the 570. I got an exciting video for you today. It's all about police batons. Kind of a little bit of history of police batons. In another video, probably the next video, we're going to do some striking. We're going to show you how powerful or not powerful some of these batons are. The pros and the cons versus some of these batons. Why some departments may never have used them. Things like that. And then you just might see me get hit with some of these. So, police batons started way back in the early 19th century. Whether it be England, whether it be the United States, old-time police officers used to walk around with what they called a billy club or a nightstick or a truncheon. This is a tire thumper. It's going to play the part of a truncheon or a billy club. Essentially, it's the same thing. It's a hardened piece of hickory shaped into a club. It would have a lanyard. Some departments or some companies call it a thong. It's just essentially for retention, so that in case you drop this thing, it's not going to fall all the way to the ground. Back in the day, they would like spin it and stuff like that. These striking tools, I'm going to say striking tools loosely, have gotten a bad rap over the years. For a long time, police were using these, and then they were forgetting what the public thought. You know, they weren't seeing it through the eyes of the public. So as they were wailing on somebody in what they claim would be try to detain someone or use the least amount of force possible to gain compliance, the public sees it as a beating. So, these didn't last long. Then the United States took something from the Japanese, essentially from Okinawa. In Okinawa, they had these T-shaped handled striking tools and defensive tools they called tonfas. Now, I do have a tonfa coming this way. I have a pair of tonfas coming this way. So I'm going to show you those in a later video, and then we'll talk about batons throughout the world. One of the oldest versions of this tool comes in the form of this. It's called the P24. And it was not only a striking tool, but it also could be used for defense. And it was what police came up with to kind of take the bad name away from being able to defend yourself, being able to subdue a subject, and then, like I said, bring back and try to restore the name of the police, because it also was a defensive weapon. So for a long time, it was seen as basically just a beating stick, and now it's more or less a tool. It's also intimidating when somebody sees this come out, whether you're using it like this or whether you're using it like this. Sometimes just the presence of this thing will get somebody to change their mind. There's lots of police training videos you can catch out there. I won't go into every one, but with the training that these things started, 50s, 60s, 70s, they started to tailor them into using them for escorts, using them as leverage to gain compliance, whether it be paying compliance or to just kind of manipulate someone to the ground so they can regain control. They were using these to their advantage. Now, there are some people that still see this as a club, and whether you do or not, I'll leave that up to you. This one is made of polycarbonate, fancy word for plastic. It's a whole bunch of different kinds of plastics, and then it's kind of, it uses technology as far as like they made it a stronger piece, and it's very flexible. There are some drawbacks to composite. Some police departments don't like it if they're in a really hot climate, because they feel like composite nightsticks can actually bend and lose their shape. Police officers in a really cold climate feel like sometimes these are very brittle when they get cold. So they do flex. I do see where that could be a concern. Maybe we'll test this in a later video, whether or not that's accurate. So, things like this were used for a long time. Police departments use these in force. They had metal ones. They also make one with like a rotating cylinder here to create more of a spinning attack. I personally wouldn't consider this my favorite baton. I don't think it's the most effective, but we'll get into that in a later video. So, along with these comes these. These are basically an individual nightstick or baton, and this would be your riot baton, your 36-inch baton. Both of these are made of hardwood. They also do make these in a composite material, and these are used more for like riot control, things like that. Again, the presence of these alone can sometimes get the mission accomplished, whether it be a show of force or kind of just moving the line. A lot of police departments will get online and move a big line of people. If you have 60 or 70s end to end, sometimes the officers will overlap them and grab each other. That way you can make a complete line. These are used all over the country, basically all over the world. It's essentially a bat, and it's got a lot of history, and I think it's pretty cool. It delivers a lot of strike force. We're going to see that in a future video, how much force this baton would carry versus some of the others. So, all through the 80s and 90s, people were developing new batons. They were constantly trying to reinvent the wheel and make something better. So this is what someone came up with. This is your friction baton. Some people call them button closed batons. Some people call them extended batons. Some people still even call these nightsticks. So what's in here is segments of metal. It's also got a hardened tip on the end, which is the striking part, and then it's got a handle for a grip. There are many companies that make these, many companies. This one in particular is made by Smith & Wesson. I'd like to thank Stun and Run Self-Defense Products for supplying me with this so I could use it for not only this display video, but we're going to do that demonstration video coming up too. So to extend these, you can pretty much just kind of pull it from your holder and whip it out. Another way to deploy these in a safe, more controlled manner, but obviously to get someone's attention. I kind of refer it and make it sound like the sound of an 870 shotgun. If you were going to use one of those for home defense, the sound of you racking that shotgun can make criminals think twice. Whether they run from there or they know what's up at that point, the sound of that is undeniable. You can't mimic the fear that someone would get from that sound when they're trying to rob you. Same with this. You got some guy elevating his voice in your face. You're trying to de-escalate, but you want him to know you mean business. You whip this thing out. You slam it down in a downward direction so nobody will get hurt, but you let him know that you're there to mean business. Get back. Get back. You can show it to him, present it, but you're going to keep it down here. Now, if you need, you can bring it up here in a ready position, like you're ready to strike, and kind of just know you're ready. That assailant just might think twice. Along with the intimidation factor, this is a pretty hefty piece of metal. It's very hard. It's got a strike tip. Some of them even come with glass breaking bottoms here. This one in particular doesn't have the glass breaking bottom, but the bottom actually unscrews, and you can set the tension of this onto how much and how little you want the friction to be when you close this. So this is a really cool thing. Like I said, I'm going to be testing all these against each other. This is one of my favorites. I love a collapsible baton. I think they're really cool. I think they serve a purpose. Originally, they designed these a little bit lighter than, say, your bigger, fatter batons. As you can see, it's thinner. Same with the P24. It's the exact same size, yet it's thinner and lighter. Their idea behind that was you could get more strikes in a quicker fashion. They call it reloading. You can reload this thing faster than you could if you were trying to reload this thing, because it's heavier and it'll weigh more, and the longer you swing it, the heavier it's going to get for the user. These come in all shapes and sizes. They have different lengths. I ordered a containment baton, which is about 4 times as heavy as this. That'll be cool when it gets here. So, this is a keychain one. Goes on your keychain. But essentially, it's the same thing. It's just 12 inches long. It's a little guy. But still, I think this serves a purpose. I think that this baton really is a good tool. It's very heavy, and someone who's going to attack you just might think twice if they see this thing come out, knowing that you're going to hit them with it. So that's pretty cool. I'd also like to thank selfdefensesuperstore.com, Defense Warehouse, sometimes it's being referred to. They supply the channel with a lot of sprays. They are the owners, creators, and originators of the napalm and heatwave spray. So I'd like to thank them for extending me this product. This is something that they sell. This is another variant of an extendable baton. Let me show you. Now this baton, on the inside, is a spring. It's a very heavy spring, but it's a spring. So the design and thought behind this would be, as you are swinging this baton, the inertia that's built up from you swinging it will create a whipping action. Now, just like a whip, if you didn't know a bull's whip, when the motion travels down that leather whip, the sound you hear at the end, that crack, is the end of the whip actually breaking the sound barrier. It's a very, very useful tool, not only used for that, but against people. If you get it right at the right spot, that will cut flesh. Same thing with this. This creates a lot of energy from being swung through the air, and then when that tip reaches, like basically when you're kind of striking into that area, when you reach your point, the tip will catch up to itself and hit whatever you're going to strike with this very, very hard. So I think this is awesome. I want to thank the guys for sending me this for testing. We're going to test this here in a couple days too. Now, 1990. Fast forward to 1990, late 80s, early 90s. There's a company called Rapid Rotation Batons. And again, they were trying to reinvent the wheel. And they came up with this. I didn't even know this existed till a couple weeks ago. I was reading about the history of batons. The Rapid Rotation Batons, early 90s, was designed to be not only a good striking tool, because it's a polycarbonate, but also a defensive tool. And used in the right manner, can prevent strikes against you. You can use it in a defensive manner. One of the drawbacks to this, and kind of why it never came to fruition, they tested it with a lot of police departments. They gave it a really good run for a few years, trying to see how it could be used in the field. It kind of was almost the same story with this. It just took longer to figure it out with this. This required a lot of training. So even though police officers go through 6 weeks of training, 6 months of training, depending on the police department, level of county, state, federal police officers, then your annual training. This requires a lot of training to be proficient, because what they want you to do is be able to do all of this motion fluently, but in the middle of a very tense situation. I think one of the reasons why it failed, because I think this is a cool tool, is because it's not an optimal design. You don't always have the motion that, like say your arm's being held. This would be very hard to get around on somebody if you didn't have the ability to swing your arm around like it's supposed to be designed. I really think that's one of the drawbacks to this. Even though it's really cool, I think you could do a lot of things with it. I think that it does serve a really cool purpose. I really think it has some flaws. Probably needed a little bit more designing, maybe some more testing before it could pass. But the Rapid Rotation Baton kind of phased out in the early 90s. You can still buy it today. I had to present my work ID just to get this, because this is one of those restricted products. But nonetheless, it's very, very cool. So as we come towards the end of our video here, I kind of want to show you the direction some people wanted to go. 90% of police departments nowadays use collapsible batons. So there was a company called Stinger that said, let's try to reinvent the wheel again. Let's present a product that is better than this, the collapsible baton. And they came up with this. It's called the Stinger Whip. Now, it's the same length. You can get these in different lengths as well. 24, 22, 26 inches. I believe all the way out to 36 inches. But if you can see here, this is a piece of cable. Cable like that would be holding either a bridge together or some piece of machinery. And it's got a plastic coating on it so that, like, say it were to fray, it would reduce the amount of accidental cuts or punctures. It's got a contoured grip here for all your fingers that's really, really comfortable. It would take a lot to rip this out of somebody's hand because you have the advantage with this. That's also another drawback to these weapons. A lot of people say these are useless. And essentially they are right. There are some cons against this weapon. Now, like, if a perp grabs this, the perp has all the leverage they want. They could take this off of you very easy. It is almost impossible for you to fight someone and keep this from being taken out of your hands. Now, if they take this out of your hands, obviously, striking tools are out. Now it's deadly force. But again, the possibility of this getting ripped out of your hands is pretty great. So, in the design of this, not only do you have a lanyard here, this contoured grip here, very, very strong, very controllable. And because this is essentially just a piece of cable, there's nothing to hold on to. Even if you were, like, you know, wrapped up with somebody in a defensive position and you got them in a headlock or they got you in a headlock, let's say your arm was under their arm. There is no way you're getting this through the body so you could strike at somebody. And even if you did, this weapon has to be loaded for a distance. You can't just, like, you know, it's just not very effective. So not only, like I said, if you were ripped up with somebody, could you get this out? It hurts, pardon my French, hurts like a motherfucker. This thing is very, very effective. You do not have to hit someone very hard for this thing to hurt. It hurts if you hit them a little. It hurts if you hit them a lot. The end of this not only has a glass breaker, but this is a devastating tool that if you were to kind of just, even if you were just to push it into somebody's ribs, push it into somebody's neck, their collarbone, up in their trap, up in their tricep, this thing hurts. I believe it's a very effective tool. Now, the cons. I understand why it's not being used as a police baton or a self-defense weapon. Now it's kind of being marketed as an emergency tool to help you get out of a car accident or just to kind of defend yourself at your home, break the glass, use the cable to clean the glass out of the window, things like that. I know why they never use this. I would never want to be the person on the other end of that video because, you know, police get recorded all the time. I'm okay, I support the First Amendment. I would never want to be on the end of that video showing me whipping somebody with this. I don't care what race they are. That viral video of me whipping someone with this is something I would never want to be a part of. I couldn't even imagine how viral that would go, how fast that would go, how fast you'd be getting sued, how fast this would disappear from the market. So I do understand why they police departments kind of never adopted this. But I think it's a really awesome tool. I think it's more effective than this. I really do. Is it more effective than the P24 or the rapid rotation baton or even some of the other batons? We will see. I'm going to do some testing about this in the next couple days. But Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I may have forgotten a few, but I'm going to be hitting these as I get them. I just can't wait forever. Some of these are coming from overseas. I've got Korean batons, German batons, Russian batons. I've got the Tonfas coming, and they come from Okinawa. So we got some things lined up. I'm going to start testing these, show you guys the videos with those. I'm going to start getting hit with these, show you guys the videos of those. But in the meantime, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I'm going to include as many clickable links as I can down below to these companies, whether it be Self-Defense Superstore, Defense Warehouse, Rapid Rotation Batons. Some of these are available on Amazon. We got some from Galls.com, and then we got Stun and Run self-defense products. Thank all of you guys for supporting the 570 experience. This is Josh. We'll see you next time.